my philosophy is the overall functional aspect of your body. When I'm 80 years old and I'm reaching for something at the grocery store, I don't want to pull my lower back. Or when I'm 80 years old and the most important thing that we can do is walk, I want to make sure that my bones and my body is prepared for that so I don't break my hip while I'm walking. Friends, welcome back to the Morning Takeaway with Nick Walker, Brandon Johns. We are back with another episode. I kind of want to start today off, Brandon, with a story that this morning happened at the gym, and then get into talking about fitness. I've got a lot of questions and a lot of people asking for more content, like about how I program, my philosophy on fitness, and kind of where to start different areas of fitness. So just to get started before everything, the last podcast, we talked a lot about like mindset and, you know, kind of getting to know you and the business aspect. Since then, what's been going on with you?
You know, man, just grinding away. But, yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of different things, marketing, house tours. I know I've been telling you about it. Been getting into real estate. I've never really been that interested in real estate, but lots of cool modern homes around here that I didn't think was in Nashville that are pretty cool to experience.
It's blowing up in Nashville.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
Oh yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah.
So it's cool to have my hands in it. See where it takes me.
All right. Yeah. No, that's good. There's so many correlations between fitness, business, and all that. So staying on the grind. All right. So I want to jump into this story. So there's this guy that works. So at the gym that I work out at, they have the parking garage, and there's a guy that kind of takes tickets back and forth. You've got a few of them. The guy that's there at 6 a.m. when I go is, and he may never see this, he might, but he's been talking to me like, Nick, I want help in fitness. I want to get back in shape, and I've got a wedding that I'm going to, and all these motivating factors. But he's like, I don't know where to go. And I've just kind of been saying, you know, I want to help you. Just start, you know, just start by walking. And it's been a few weeks, and yesterday I saw him and he's like, oh my gosh, today was the first day I got back. I went to a spin class. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. And, you know, initially, like obviously I wanted to believe him, but at the same time, it was kind of like, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. And it's one of those things that's like, it's really easy to talk about it, and it's really fun to talk about it at the beginning. And when days 1, 2, and 3 are easy, it's fresh, it's new. But on day 51, 52, 53, are you still doing it? Well, I come in today, and I'm at the gym, and I see him on the bike, and I was like, "Whoa, this is sick!" And it's such a simple story, but I got done with my workout, and my takeaway from this morning was the fact that he was in there. And I told him once I was leaving the garage, I looked at him and I said, hey man, I just want to tell you, you made my day. Like seeing you in the gym and you putting in the work. And he was like, oh my gosh, you know, thank you so much. It's only day 2, but I said, well, that doesn't matter. You started. Now it's about gaining momentum and progressing from there. So that's my little story. And if there is people out there, like that's probably the question I get the most, like where do I start? And that to me is just move your body for 30 minutes. And I think we've talked about it before, but I wanted to share that before we get into like different questions and whatnot that I guess you've had quite a bit of questions for me, like fitness wise.
Yeah, no, it's actually kind of funny. Him, just starting, it's, I've been lifting for a while, and ever since baseball, essentially, that's when I started lifting consistently, which is over, I don't even know, like 8 years now. But for me, I'm maybe at a different stage. Like I have the kind of the consistency. It's kind of like built, like wired into me now. It's like if I don't work out, it feels like I'm missing something. Like I need to go work out to finish my day. But I feel like just starting, like having that mindset of like, okay, you don't really know where to just start, like where if you literally have not lifted. But then also me, it's like not knowing where I'm like to get to my goals, like I feel like I'm kind of in that area too, where it's like, yeah, I've lifted a lot. I'm experienced in the gym. Like I feel confident, comfortable going into the gym, but I don't know like what's going to move the needle. Like I've been doing it for 3 years straight. And needle's not really moving, and I feel like
right.
a lot of people, like a lot of my buddies are doing I've been lifting with them consistently. Like we're all pretty much maintaining out here, but we're not. In our minds, we're thinking we're doing something, but we're really like the results aren't there.
Well, you're doing something. You're getting the blood flowing. You're getting the endorphins going every day. Like, and that's why we do it. Like, that's one of the things I tell people all the time. Like, they're always like, "Why do you work out so much?" And mine's borderline obsession because I love how I feel after. But is that not why we do it? Right? Like to feel good mentally and feel good, clear throughout the day, and it helps everything else kind of get your day rolling. I think like it sounds like to me like where you're at is where a lot of people get stuck. Like I'm at a plateau. How do I bust through it? And how do I actually like see more results in the sense of, and not just go in there and like, oh, just another workout and I'm going to feel really good today, but I'm not really changing, right? Like, that's kind of what the plateau aspect?
Yeah, I do think so. Because like I said, it accomplishes the goal of, feeling good. Like I feel good. I'm accomplishing things, like moving. I got forward momentum every single day doing it. But the physical results, if you looked at my body in the last 5 years or whatever, like you'd be like, dude, there's no way you go to the gym every single day. Like obviously like I'm fit, but I'm not like, if I was on a program, I feel like, that you see celebrities or all these other people that like, oh, we got to get ripped in 3 months. Like that's not happening.
Wahlberg,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the videos. Yeah. So I think there's different parts to it, depending on who you work with too. And that's why I love fitness is every trainer has a different philosophy. It's kind of like politics, if that's probably a terrible way to look at it, but it is. I mean, everybody has their own unique philosophy, and there's so many different ways of fitness that work for different people. And before, that just reminded me what's on the board. Fitness equals fitness. So what does that mean? The whole overall aspect of fitness as a general term is your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, all combined into your fitness, right? So there's a guy that I love to listen to. He always says, don't let your fitness steal your fitness. And what does that mean? It's don't get so overly involved that you're creating these pictures in your mind, and like that's where we get into like kind of the body dysmorphia and all that stuff and the obsession kind of with it. And that's, I'm kind of going into a rabbit hole, but I just wanted to explain what that meant. But for you and a lot of other people, it's like you were just talking about, is like being on a program. And to me, I think that's a question that I want to answer in this podcast is talking about like programming. Where do you start? Like what should be in a program? Where do you go? How do I progress? And quite honestly, there is your diet's going to be 80% of it. That is the biggest change that you can make to see physical results. Not to mention the microbiome benefits and whatever that we can get into another day. But programming, in my opinion, you should go into the gym every day with a mindset that you're going to progress in some way, shape, or form. The idea, I talk about progressive overload all the time. What is progressive overload? It is getting into an exercise, or we'll take a back squat, for example. If I'm going 4 sets of 12, well, I'm going to try to either increase, that's kind of staying stagnant, right? Like that's in the hypertrophy strength range. If I want to progress that with progressive overload, I am going to increase the weight each set, and I'm going to increase that stimulus. And I want to go on another little rabbit hole really quick. That whole idea of staying in that plateau is kind of the same idea that our bodies are always trying to basically adapt to the or get back to homeostasis. They want to get back to equilibrium. Everything that you do and put any kind of eustress, distress that you put on your body, it is trying to figure out a way to get back to normal. And that's where we see results. That's where we see changes happen, if that makes sense. So the progressive overload is, how do you build muscle? Well, I'm going to increase the weight each time because that's going to tear down those muscle fibers. And I'm going to progressively work up in weight or up in reps. If it's a body weight, you can also do progressive overload by slowing down tempos, reps, whatever it may be. So that's a vital part of programming, as well as the movement patterns. And I think we kind of talked about this a little. I don't know if you remember what we talked about that one time, but let's see if you can name back there's 7 functional movement patterns. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I can't. I can't name probably any of them. I mean, you started throwing lingo at me, and I was just like, yeah, okay, all right, you know, and I had no idea.
It sounds right. It's kind of like you go to the doctors and they'll prescribe you something, and they just say a bunch of big words. You might not have. It might just be just a pill that does nothing, and because they said so, it works. Yeah, right? Like, yeah. What do you do when you go to get your car fixed? Go to the auto shop. They're like, you need this, this, and this. All right. Don't know what the heck that is, but run it up.
Yeah, exactly. So what are those? Yeah.
The 7 functional, and this is where we kind of get into philosophy, right? Like you have all the bodybuilding kind of techniques where you can isolate, and you go, like, on Monday you go chest, back, or chest and tries, back and buys, legs and shoulders. Like that's a pretty common split, as they say. And there is a time and place for that, in my opinion. But if you're trying, my philosophy is the overall functional aspect of your body. When I'm 80 years old and I'm reaching for something at the grocery store, I don't want to pull my lower back. Or when I'm 80 years old and the most important thing that we can do is walk, I want to make sure that my bones and my body is prepared for that, so I don't break my hip while I'm walking. So theoretically, the 7 functional movement patterns are a horizontal push, a horizontal pull. So you got your chest press, your barbell row, or press in a row horizontally. Then you go vertical press, vertical pull, push and pull, vertical push, vertical pull. So like an overhead press and a pull up. And then we get into hip dominant, knee dominant. So you could take a deadlift and a back squat or a lunge. And then you get into core. So that's your 7th functional movement pattern. Now when you talk about core, is that just a sit-up? Is that, whatever your common exercises? Well, you can also break down core into anti-movements, into like full range of motion. And I'm a big proponent of anti-movements as far as functional movement, functional overall longevity of the core. And what are these movements? You've got anti-rotational, anti-lateral flexion, and anti-extension. So everybody hates a plank. That's anti-extension. When you're in a plank, everybody's like, oh, that's not going to give me abs. It's not going to give me a six-pack. Realistically, it is. And it's also going to help you with stability and strength. And using those anti-movements on Instagram, I'm always doing like the lateral plank with the reach through. It's technically anti-lateral flexion if I'm not moving, because an anti-movements are not moving. If that side plank, it's also the best one, by the way, for the obliques and like that love handle line. But getting into like the rotational aspect is also the best way to. Wow, I'm going down a lot of rabbit holes. I love it.
This dude's got a wealth of knowledge out here.
But and that's my philosophy. But there's different things that you ask a bodybuilder and he's like, that wants to just go in and do chest. Well, they're going to blast their chest and really break down their muscle fibers, and then not train it again for 4 or 5, 3 or 4 or 5 days, whatever it is, because their chest is so broken down, right? I don't know if this is making sense. Do you have any questions so far?
So bringing it back to like, all right, being at a plateau or whatever, and like way you were describing those, like, the traditional splits, and like just now, like you said, they'll hit chest really hard, and then 3 or 4 days they won't do anything chest, and then they'll get back into it. Like I may be like 3 days off or something, but I'm kind of like on those splits, like, and that's kind of, and I spent a few like months or whatever doing a full body kind of programming. But like right now, currently, I'm just doing like those traditional type splits, and I don't think at all about like all the movements you just said, like the lateral push or like the horizontal push, pull, whatever. And like I think I'm getting some of those.
You're doing them.
Yeah, I'm definitely like when you're saying it, yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, like the pull-ups and the bench and this thing. But like I don't think about it. Like I'm not, and so
right.
I feel like,
well, you don't have to. You don't have a master's degree in this stuff, right? Like
yeah.
Essentially like another one. I actually do love the push pull legs split because you're giving those ranges of motion the work that they need, and you're working that range of motion on different days. So you're loading them differently and letting them recover over different periods of time. So like I just went through a 10-week phase. That's my hybrid athlete program 2.0 that I'm going to release like next week. Will be on my app, by the way, if you're watching, nickwalkerfitness.app. But the first 5 weeks were basically building up through through full body movements. And like you said, like you do the full body. And one of the biggest things, and I know I used to be this way, was like, oh, I'm not going to get big and gain lean muscle mass on full body. Like I'm only doing one movement a day.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you think about it, and when Corona happened, I bought a barbell, a squat rack, and adjustable dumbbells. I had like a high-low pulley system in my garage. That's the most results I've ever seen by doing everything with those pieces of equipment, full body workouts every day. And I gained, I think like 15 pounds and dropped like 3-4% body fat. I went from like 12 to 8. And anyways,
I didn't know that. See, I could have sworn that you were getting big. I noticed you were getting big, but I didn't know it was just like with that.
Right. Yeah, no, it was just that those pieces of equipment. But as far as like I'm losing my train of thought on what we were just talking about. I know you're talking about the
we're talking
whatchamacallit,
the horizontal, like basically not thinking about it.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like you don't have to know, right? Why I was talking to somebody in the gym today. He was like, "Oh, I was doing all these certifications, but I got so immersed in it that I started to think about it too much when I was working out, and it was messing with my head." I'm like, well, that's a different lifestyle. Like, you don't have to know. You're gonna go in there and you're gonna bench press. You're gonna go in there. You're gonna squat. You're knocking out 2 body movements. Well, now like why you need a trainer or why you need somebody to help you out is because they have the knowledge. You don't have to have the knowledge, right? Like, in my opinion, every coach needs a coach. Every financial advisor needs a financial advisor. Every, CEO needs a boss. Somebody's always going to be better than you, and there's always going to be somebody that knows more than you. And in my opinion, like in the fitness space, like you said, you don't necessarily know, but you're doing these and you're progressing, but it's how to progress that, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the conversations we had was like, well, how do I go in there and know that I'm doing the right thing? Well, if you can memorize those 7 functional movement patterns, and if you go in to structure an easy workout, like I could prescribe you 4 movements and get you a good workout in 30 minutes, like at a hotel. If you can do combination movements like a snatch to press. Now we're knocking out hip dominant and vertical press. Okay, now we go into a push up to row. Push up, horizontal push, horizontal pull. Now we've just knocked out 4 in 1. Technically, with a pull right there, you're getting core in too. But if somebody's just going in there and wanting to structure their own workout, memorize those 7 functional movement patterns and associate one movement, and then ask yourself every time you do a movement, which one was that? Like, what did I just do right here? Overhead press, vertical push, knocked it out. And then you take your variations off there, and like anything that you're doing in the gym, you're doing one of those 7.
Yeah.
It's not like it's kind of, I don't think there's anything that you would do that wouldn't be, right?
The diagonal.
So
diagonals.
Yeah.
Something.
Then you get into planes of motion, and that's another conversation in the sense of like if I'm gonna train for overall longevity, I need to work in all planes of motion. Everything that happens in our life is all right in front of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you start working in the transverse plane and you go a lunge where you open up at, 145 degrees, whatever it is. Well, now you're training different planes of motion and you're really getting the most out of your workout. It's all the really not fun stuff that people don't want to do that makes us healthier in a way, if that makes sense.
So I want to kind of go back because I'm trying to take it all in, kind of apply it as well too. You said you talked about it, you came off a 10-week phase. So like, how do you look at it? Like, how long do you do a certain type of like programming or whatever, and then switch it up? Like, how often do you switch things up?
Some people will say 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I'm a big fan of like a 4 to 5 week phase. Also, because I don't want to get bored. I think that's also part of the whole plateauing thing is you just get bored. Like, oh, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll just do a bench press again, right? So for me, it's a 4 week phase, and then I go into a deload. And I don't know if you ever saw Ryan Fisher talk about this, but somebody asked him, like, what is a deload? And if you're following a specific program, which is doing the same workout on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, like let's say you take one day off in the middle and you follow that for 4 weeks, well, you should be tracking your weights each week so that you can progress in those weights. Or like I have in one of my programs in that 2.0 program that I just finished, if you like getting towards the end, you're essentially going to be at your higher level or higher weights. You should take, if there's a 4 sets of 8 reps, and you don't get all 8 reps on that heavy weight, well, I want you to, if I was doing 90 pounds on a bench press, a dumbbell bench press, I want you to half that weight, go down to 45 pounds, and if it was supposed to be for 8 reps, do 16 reps. So half the weight, double the reps. So you're still progressing in some kind of way. So going back to how long you should do it in the deload, he says, the deload week is essentially taking your body down in weight and less reps, and you're still engaging, but it's kind of like a week off, and it's really kind of bringing it back to like, it's kind of a recovery week. But what's the reason for a deload week? The way Ryan attributed it was it's kind of like working a 9 to 5 every single day of your life and never taking a vacation. You should always have some kind of vacation to reset, right? Reset the brain. You go on vacation, it's a sense of relief, right? And release. So it's the same idea in fitness. And so I like to follow a 4 week phase, progressing, and then take that the 5th week to kind of recover, bring it down. You're still going in, you're getting the pump and feeling good. And following that same workout, just the rep scheme changes kind of entirely. And then you would go into a new phase. So for me, like the first 5 weeks were a full body phase, and we focused on strength, kind of building the foundation. And then we moved into push pull legs, which was all those like 3 of your push movements, 3 of your pull movements, and there's some controversy around hip dominant, knee dominant, but I guess that would be on the leg day. But anyways, then I moved into there, and I just finished this literally like 3 days ago. So to answer your question, 4 to 5 weeks, and I just keep rambling on because I love talking about this stuff. So my consistent 4 or 5 months of the same workout plan,
the same thing. Like obviously progressing a little bit on weight, but yeah, I definitely probably should take that vacation. Okay, that's good to know.
Well, yeah, and it gives you a chance to, like on those deload weeks, I'm like, heck yeah, I'm going in here. It's gonna be super quick. I'm gonna have more time during the rest of the day. It kind of gives you that release and that vacation feel, but you still got something in.
But you kind of know it's like doing something for you, like without like going in there and feeling like you're just not working out as hard. Like it's like strategic, so you actually feel like
exactly
good about it, not just be like, oh, I kind of just gave that workout away.
Right, and to that point, I think a lot of people go in and I hate this. People, I didn't sweat today. It wasn't a good workout. It's like, no, you went in and you worked out. You moved your body. You did way more than 90% of the world probably, right? You should be proud of that the fact that you got up and you went in. There's somebody that talks about if you're just getting started, there's a rule that you go in there for 5 minutes every day. prove to yourself that you belong there, get in there, right? At our level, if you're already established, go in there. You might be going through the motions, but you did more than you would sleeping in, sitting on the couch, not doing anything, right? So that's a little different area. But yes, it's providing a purpose. And I think one of the reasons why fitness is so scary to people is they don't have a roadmap and where to go. And, you know, you and I we were just talking about this with my app. That's kind of what we want to get out there, right? Is providing that roadmap for everybody. And if you're just starting, we're going to create the habits. You don't need any equipment. We're going to create the 30-day habits. Then we're going to get into body weight, and then we're going to progress you to dumbbells. And then if you still want to stay with dumbbells and all of those things you can do at home, you don't have to get in the gym where it's scary. And then you can progress to being in the gym and with the hybrid athlete programs, and then pick what you want to do. And hopefully at one point you're on your own, right? So it's kind of the idea. And hopefully this podcast provides a little insight to if when you're on your own, what you should do to program.
Yeah, that does make sense. But now, as far as at the beginning, you said 80% of all the stuff I'm basically doing to try to change my body is going to be my diet.
Right.
And one thing that I've been thinking for like years is like, I don't know how much food I'm supposed to be eating. Like, I know I can go on the calculators, like there's calculators online, like put in my height and here's your height and weight, age, and here's what your maintenance is or whatever. But like, how do you go about it? Like when you're working with someone, maybe one-on-one or yourself, like, and figure out what's the right amount of calories or like macros or whatever to actually, like, you know, that's right for that person.
So I think the first, and I'll preface this because I don't have my nutrition license yet, but I am allowed to talk about it because I've done it with experience.
Yeah, okay.
But so the first thing that I recommend is having a way to track what you're expending first, right? Like, how do I know what I need to take in if I don't know what I'm putting out? And I'll use myself as an example, and I'm a terrible example because I burn way too much. But if I burn, like yesterday, I burned 2,000 calories. Well, how do you know that? Get something to track it. There is every possible thing out there now, like whether it's the Whoop band or the Apple Watch or a Fitbit, whatever it might be. These two are my favorites. If the Whoop told time, I would think it's the best freaking invention on the world. But essentially, it gives you a rough idea of what you're expending. And if then you take that expenditure, and that's only also, by the way, it's only tracking what your activity expenditure is, right? That's not taking into account your resting metabolic rate and what you're actually burning at rest. And fun fact for the people out there, every pound of muscle that you put on is going to help you burn 50 calories at rest. So that plays into metabolism.
Jeez.
So a lot of, like, one of the other myths in fitness is like, oh, lifting is going to make me bulky, and, you know, I'm not going to be able to, like, a lot of, and it's more in women, it's in men too, but stepping on the scale, I hate the freaking scale, because if you step on the scale, and like a lot of with my women clients, they'll step on the scale like, oh, why am I gaining weight? Well, you got to gain muscle to lose fat. And so they'll see it, I'll say, well, you just told me last week that you are like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing so much difference in my waist, and I feel I look so much better already, but now you're going to get really upset over the scale. Well, that's because the scale can't measure anything besides your weight, right? So if I was like, one of my clients, she was 130 and then she went up to 135. Well, what is that? 5 pounds of muscle. You've now so that's 1 pound of muscle, 50 calories at rest. Five times 50.
So
250 calories at rest. You just increased.
Jeez,
so when you're sitting there. So anyways, going back to what you're expending, these types of things like the Whoop or the Apple Watch, they'll tell you. And then you go into tracking your calories, right? So now you go into your goals. Do I want to build muscle? Do I want to lose weight? If I'm burning, so my activity calories were 2,000, my overall was like 4,100. So if my overall is 4,100 and I want to maintain that weight, I should probably get 4,100 calories a day. And if I want to gain weight, I should be in a slight caloric surplus. Or if I want to lose weight, a slight caloric deficit. And I think that's why I am able to stay lean, is because I burn so much, but I don't lose a lot because I eat so much. And I think this is a good point to bring this. This is a good point to bring this up because it's based on your lifestyle too, right? Like there's not many people that are doing the stuff that I'm doing, right? Nor that they should, but it's what is important to me. It's the life that I live. It's what I do for a living, right? So that's not to say that I'm better than anybody, but it's just the sense of my lifestyle is going to be different because I have to have my shirt off half the time, as opposed to, I don't know, somebody that's in real estate, right? Like you got to be all dressed up for success. So, that, and then you go into, so now what's your goal? And from there, that's going to help me dictate, my macros and my micro. People don't really pay attention to micronutrients, but those are freaking essential. And I think everybody should take there's a good topic, the essential supplements. But I don't know. Does that answer your question?
So, yeah, it does. Now, question that I have about it is, so as you can see, I know, I've got like you said, if the Whoop did everything the Apple Watch did, in terms of time and stuff, probably wouldn't be wearing the Apple Watch. But these both, because I'll track the workout, and it's these both track very different calories, and so what do you do there? Because I'll read into it a ton. I'll be like, I just don't know. I don't know how much I'm actually spending.
You don't know which one to trust? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Which one do I trust out here? And if this one's completely different than this one, are either of them close? What are we doing?
Yeah, so that's interesting because my Apple Watch will tell me I burned 1,100 calories a day in my workout, but my Whoop will say 600, and that's kind of a mind game. So that's where I kind of go back to say, at least it's giving you a rough estimate, right? And it would be really easy.
So do you just take the middle?
I mean, you could average them. I don't think I really have the specific answer to that question, but I would say, in my opinion, and it's unfortunate that I'm not sponsored by Whoop because this would be a really good marketing conversation, but I do trust the Whoop way more. The amount of technology that they've put into their technology, and it tracks your sleep. It gives you they have all these articles from people that are, in the space talking about your HRV, your heart rate variability while you sleep. Or, I mean, you go out drinking one night and last night I had 85% recovery, which is great. I'm in the green. Well, if I go to Vegas on Thursday and I'm going to be at a bachelor party, I'm probably going to wake up and it's going to be at 1 to 3%. 2%. Yeah, in the red, and it knows. I don't think that my Apple Watch would be able to tell me that. And so it kind of depends. If somebody just starting out,
now that makes sense.
Yeah, if somebody just starting out, you just need to be able to track something, right?
Yeah.
If you want to go to the old school way, every nutrition label you see is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So that's kind of considered average, right? So if I'm going to say, hey, you want to lose weight, well, you should probably take in about 1,500 calories based on a average diet of 2,000 calories a day. Well, it's not just about calories either. It's about your macros, right? Protein, fats, and carbs. And then you get into carbs, your added sugars, you get into carbs, how much fiber's in it and how much, complex carbs versus simple carbs and simple sugars and yada, yada, yada. There's so much that goes into it that plays into, there's, the high carb, low fat diets, high protein, high fat, a keto. It depends on the lifestyle you want to live. There's different mental aspects that are beneficial based on different diets. But I think that's a different podcast.
So yeah, for sure. I mean, that could be an entirely specific podcast. But so basically, you got to start with tracking, so knowing some sort of what your daily expenditure of your calories is. And then once you figure that out, it's okay, your goals. Are you going to try to gain muscle or cut fat or whatever you're trying to do? And then you do a caloric surplus or a deficit. So when you're looking at a surplus and a deficit, because I've got some buddies where it's like, we started at the beginning of this year, we were like doing 75 hard and stuff. And so everyone had their own kind of goals. And, you know, one of my buddies was like, bro, I'm just trying to get super big. Like, I'm just going to get jacked. Like, I'm trying to eat as many calories as I possibly can a day. Like, he was eating like out of the ice cream pint, just like chilling like at night and everything.
The quote unquote dirty bulk.
The dirty bulk. The dirtiest bulk of them all. And, you know, and then I'm over here like, well, I'm trying to do clean bulk, you know, like, but I don't know how many calories. So how many calories do you go up if you're going for a surplus, or how many calories do you go down, you know, if you're going for a deficit? Like, is there a certain strategy to that?
Basically, your buddy is going to have, taking in that amount of carbs and sugars and the dirty way, he's going to gain quite a bit of fat with that as well and feeling like crap. So in my own professional opinion, I believe that if you're just starting out, you should really aim to increase your protein levels and probably like complex carbs. So getting into macros, kind of looking at your own splits, whatever customized splits that you have, that's going to help you gain weight over time, help you build energy or store energy, and for over the longer period of time to be able to work out harder in the gym. So a specific answer, I mean, I always just like to think of it like the 500 aspect, but that's also, I mean, that's probably what, a ribeye, a half of a sweet potato, and like half a full head of broccoli, like a floret, right? Like it's like about a 500, 600 calorie meal, which is also gets expensive. And that's another problem we run into with, like, it's with a lot of people, like fitness wise, it's really hard to get your goals right in the kitchen because it's really expensive. But that'd be a good thing to create, inexpensive grocery list.
Trying to clean bulk was super. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to have to add an extra $50 a week on my grocery list. Like, come on now.
Yeah, well, and I think so. Here's another. It's kind of a known idea in fitness, like with taking your protein intake when you're trying to bulk or, you know, lean up. Like, your protein synthesis is essentially the big thing, right? So what I suggest to people, that, like, for you, if you want to clean bulk, then I would go a pound for every pound of body weight. For every pound of body weight, you would take a gram of protein. So if I'm 235 pounds, I'm going to take 235 pounds of protein in. And it's a lot easier once you, if you sit down and track it. Like, I actually tracked it the other day. I was like, I wonder actually how much I'm getting in. And I think I was at like 260. And there does become a point where, like, your body's be like, yo, I need to stop going to the bathroom. But, you know, it's like but that's a pretty good way to live by, in the sense of that's to get the protein and the maximum. You get into BCAAs, EAAs, which is branched chain amino acids and essential amino acids too, but you can get those things from, you know, fatty fish and lean meats. So
now, so one more thing to tail onto this, because I know we've been talking about it a lot. We kind of gone all over the place with terms of like specific types of workouts, how often you should switch them up, you know, like how many calories you should eat, how do you even know how much calories you have, like, that you're expending. One last thing, I know this is like a big question that a lot of people, especially myself and my friends, it's like, you know, you're at a stage where you're not like skinny to where you can just see your abs, but like you're not like that muscular, you're just kind of skinny, but you're also not like just got a ton of muscle under a layer of fat, and you can just like, oh, you clearly know I should cut. Is it like in that middle stage where you're like, well, I've got fat on my body, I'm not seeing my abs, but I'm also like not that muscular? Like, do you recommend, like, if someone like is in their mind, they're like, well, I need to lose weight, I need to lose fat, but do you think it's like you should add muscle and bulk, even though you're like currently, have a layer of fat on, and then try to take the fat off, or like, and that's kind of scary for people that are like, well, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to lose my fat. Like, is that the kind of strategy to go about it? Like, what do you think about that?
So where my brain initially goes is to incorporate the full body movements and the full body workouts, because if you're working those functional movement patterns every single one, like with one exercise every single day, well, your body's going to be able to progressively overload that quicker each day, and there's less to recover from because it's one exercise per movement, and you're getting those over the course of the week-long program or whatever it is. So, in my opinion, if you're trying to like cut weight, and like, you can do both, and that also gets into the kitchen. But if you're gonna do the like specifically, yes, I would add weight before you cut it. And I mean, quite honestly, I don't really get into the whole like I've never really like bulked then cut, or like I've never done that. I just kind of stick to the progressive overload and eat really clean and eat a lot. And that's like, to dumb it down, or I shouldn't say dumb it down, but to simplify it, it's like eat lean meats. And if you don't eat lean meats, make sure you're getting your protein from somewhere. And protein powders are great for that. My shout out to Performix. If you want 30% off, it's code NICK30, and their IO whey is like it's a new form of whey, like aside from like the isos and the what's all the other ones, there's one casein protein, and it's ingredient optimized, so your body's going to absorb it at 36% better than any of these other proteins. And they also have a plant-based protein with Performix. I love it. I freaking love it. But that's just a side note. But eat real food that comes from the ground, eat colorful foods that come from the ground, and eat a lot of them. And your body's going to naturally start to take better shape and better form, right? So I think from your, like, for that specific body type that's like, yo, I feel good, I think I'm almost there. I think it's also a matter of knowing the types of movements to use. Like, if that was somebody that came to me and said it, I would probably incorporate, this is going to sound weird, but like leg movements and rotational core. So like a barbell back squat, and why? Because all of your hormones start from the ground up. Think about gravity. Gravity is taking everything down all the time, right? So I'm going to wake those hormones up. I'm going to speed up the processes, and this is why I'm a big fan of the full body movements. I'll start with a compound leg exercise to start every day, and if it's a 5-day split of full body workouts, I'll go back squat, then I'll go to hip dominant with a trap bar deadlift, then I'll go to a bench press. So it's not really starting off, but that's my fun day. And then I'll go into a split squat, and then I'll go into like an RDL, and it's always the barbell. So, and then going back to like the rotational aspect, I would go into a half kneeling, which is just on one knee, and attach a cable up here, reach across, pull down to my hip. And that's rotational. You're working the entire core, transverse abdominals, and you're going to see a lot of benefit if you incorporate that. So I think that answers your question. I'm also speaking a foreign language again, but we didn't even get into agonistic and antagonistic movements and muscle groups.
Well, we'll save that for another podcast.
We'll have to do a part 2. So I don't know if you have any other,
because I gotta dig back into all this stuff. I gotta dig back into it more.
Get out the notepad.
I feel like we kind of covered a lot of topics. Yeah, no, exactly, dude. Like, I'm gonna have to really watch this back.
That's okay. And if there is somebody out there watching that feels like somebody would take something away from this or help them in their fitness or whatever it might be, don't forget to share it, comment, and if there's something that you want in part 2, comment it, and we're probably going to do a part 2 no matter what, right? Like, I feel like there's so much that you can talk about in fitness in general. I mean, we could get into every topic possible. We don't need to limit to part 1, part 2, part 3. But if there is something that you want answered, don't be afraid to comment it, and we'll get to it. But before we close things out, we got to do the random question generator. And
Uh-oh.
See what pops up for us. Ooh, all right, here you go. Do we want to do the same question for both of us, or you get one, I get one?
I think we do. I get one, you get one. Let's switch it up.
All right, do you want?
So that way there's no bias whatsoever.
All right, yeah, I like that. Okay, so what do you want the first one?
Sure, hit me with it.
All right, what's the most difficult choice you were asked to make?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I like these because like last time I was asking, I was like, what's our spirit animal? And now it's like getting deep.
Most difficult choice I was asked to make. Man.
It's okay. Take your time.
I'm trying, dude. I'm trying to dig deep out here. Oh, man. I'm just curious. Do you have one that pops in your head?
What's the most... It's funny. I've just been waiting on you, and I wasn't thinking of what I would say. That I was asked to make... I think the first thing that comes to my head was... There were some certain circumstances in college that led me to, in my baseball career, that I was basically presented the option to stay at the university that I was at or transfer out. And I decided to stay. And that was hands down one of the hardest decisions I had to make. But it kind of came down to, do I want to not play and risk not getting drafted potentially or it hindering me, or go somewhere else, play, and potentially get drafted that year? And I chose to stay because those people were really good to me. So that was freaking awesome people.
Sorry guys, I didn't have anything. Maybe okay. Here's one. Difficult decision. Long-term relationship, right? And I feel like a lot of people, especially like high school type relationships, it's like you're with someone and it's good. Like it's maybe it's all you've ever known, but it's good. Like everything like feels all right. Like there's no reason not to be with that person. But in the back of your head, just that slight little bit like, hey, this is probably not meant to be long term. And that's a difficult decision because you've built a lot with that person and you care for the person, but you know that like for you and that other person, you
have to grow.
It's going to be better off for everyone that you break up and go separate ways. And so that's a difficult decision because it's like not like, oh shoot, like she cheated on me, he cheated on me, or whatever, like I'm out, like I'm out of here. No, it's like
it's a mature decision.
Yeah, it's like we're good, but we're not great. And that was probably the toughest decision. Like. Yeah, that was probably one of the toughest decisions, And I wasn't asked to make that. I made it myself, but yeah.
Well, it's like at that age, like you were talking about a high school relationship, and I know the relationship I think that you were referring to, but it's like in that time, we're still kids. Like you're still growing. Your brain is still developing. Your brain's developing until you're 25. And in that, like that's a really mature decision. A lot of these people that are like high school sweethearts, it's because they never kind of expand out of that and get uncomfortable. And it's, in my opinion, and I'm no love doctor or relationship advisor, but I think it's and I've been there too. I think it's the most mature decision that you can make because you have to grow as a person. And if you're always dependent on others and anything in life, like it's really hard to progress. So I think you hit the nail on the head.
Thanks, dude. I'm glad I pulled that one out. I'm glad I felt bad, I couldn't find something. But I think a lot of people can relate to that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like that gut feeling. You have it, and I've had that same kind of gut feeling like on things later on, maybe not even a relationship. And so that's kind of like you've kind of recognized that. Maybe that's something you can kind of take with you as you go on in life.
Absolutely. I love it. The trust your instincts, trust your gut. There's a whole other podcast I could do on that one. Tim Grover talks about it in his book Relentless. It's great. But
what you got? What's your question?
I think that's all I got. Oh, we're going one for me too?
Yeah, man. I want to hear one for you.
Oh, I just got an easy one. When are you most productive? I am the most productive as soon as I get done working out. Hop in the shower. I'm actually doing the intermittent fasting, and I feel so good, like sharp, mentally sharp at the end of my fast, and I'm working out at the end of my fast. Get in my shower, clean off. I'm checking things off my to-do list. Like I'm gaining momentum, and with that, I don't want to stop. So, like, I'm gonna probably get off this podcast and motor on motor on through these freaking check boxes and get them done so I can enjoy the rest of my day. And yeah, I think that's my answer. Yeah,
I like it.
For your most productive time.
Morning, right after workout.
What we're doing?
Everything's rolling. You know, you got the momentum. You know. That's what you. That's exactly what goes through my mind. Oh man.
All right, my friends. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. We'll go through the comments and see what we got for next time. But till then, appreciate you tuning in. Have an awesome day, and don't forget to smile.